Well, I think less than 9% of any companies in any industry do $1 million.
Yeah.
And you did it in a few months.
Yeah. And then at the end of the year, I'm doing over 2. But and one thing, this is what I've realized even since then, is that
fighters, welcome to the Contractor Fight podcast. If you're checking this out on video, you're probably noticing a little bit different set that we have going on here. It's because we moved into our new space for content production and workshops here in Colorado Springs. And so I'm excited for that. I'm also excited for our first guest with the new setup, my man, Anthony Abbott. What's up?
Dude, such an honor to be brought out here to be the first guest in the new studio.
Well, there were 3 other people that couldn't make it, so.
Well, that's what I figured when you guys had me start doing the BG90 numbers calls. I was like, it must have been because nobody else wanted to do it.
Yeah, we're like, Anthony's brilliant. He's the guy. You know, but
he'll be really great.
No, I actually, I'm excited for this. I've been fired up since we planned this about a month and a half ago. We put it on the calendar.
Oh, dude, I've been counting it down, man.
Yeah, it's cool, man. Anthony helped me hang the sign behind us here today.
Could you imagine?
I still got to do some touch-ups in here, but we're
Tom flies me out from across the country, and the first thing he gets me to do is he gives me a tool and puts it in my hand.
Yeah, and you haven't touched a tool.
He gives me manual labor.
Yeah, when's the last time you had the tools on?
I haven't wore my tool belt in 3-4 years.
Okay. Yeah.
And here I am.
Here you are. So,
I'll send the invoice.
Hey, you can do that. That's totally. What are you going to charge me to help me with that? It was about 20 minutes, right?
$1 billion.
$1 billion bucks. All right. Cool.
50% gross profit.
Checks in the mail. There you go. So anyway, we've been thinking about this conversation for quite a while. We just decided to hit record, and I have a few talking points. I got some things I'm going to pull up on my phone, some screenshots from some stuff online. And this is going to be a free-for-all conversation on really just how to be more successful, life, business. And if you guys are listening to this, it's probably going to be one of our longer episodes. Whenever I bring somebody in like this, they're going to be longer because you're here, and I want to take advantage of that. We're also, tomorrow, we're going to be in here recording one of our new training courses on numbers for contractors so they can learn how to make money like you're making. Because you're making some bank. So
Huge.
let's do the 30,000-foot flyby. Who's an Anthony Abbott for those that don't know?
Oh man, so it really is going to be a long podcast. I'm a 35-year-old average guy who just happened to be handy with his hands and didn't make any money for a while after getting out of the Army. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to create a better life for my family, so I started my own business. Found myself working way too much for way too little. And I was just about to give up. Mm-hmm. And then I found something that changed my life forever, and that was the fight. And I got in, started implementing, started winning. Took some time for me to start winning. I had really had to pound the stone for a while. But then the first time I sold something at what I needed to sell at to be profitable, was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then I just religiously just implemented over time. The one thing I can say, the 30,000-foot view of me is my life has been nothing but challenges,
mm-hmm.
but I never gave up.
Yeah.
I never quit. And I think it's because of that and me being willing to bet on myself is why I'm sitting here next to you doing this.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, Anthony found the fight, jumped into our programs. We'll talk about that in a minute, but he's also now for the better part of a year almost.
It'll be a year next month.
A year next month. You made it a year is on the team in the fight. He's one of our coaches, one of our fight coaches. You get to help a bunch of people every day get better, which I know is pretty cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Just seeing how, because let's face it, like this could be our battleground program. This could be a gym membership. It doesn't matter. Most people come into something and don't implement what they're learning, but those that do, it's so cool to see. There was a guy that posted something the other day, like 1 year in the group, he went from I forget the numbers. It was like 760,000 to 2.4, 2.7 million. Derek.
Garage guy. Derek.
Yeah. Another garage, Derek. And he's like, I just implement shit. and I'll be talking to him here on the show at some point too. But so where pre-Anthony or pre-fight Anthony, what'd the business look like?
It's funny. I tell this story every week in Battleground during the BG90 small group calls.
Yeah.
And to where I was averaging somewhere between $250,000, $300,000 every year. I didn't really know my numbers, so it's hard for me to say what my gross profit was, but I barely paid myself.
Okay.
At all. I think the last year, so that was 2020, before I hopped in the fight, I think I have a W-2 for like $12,000. Right? But here's the crazy part. Is because I didn't know what I didn't know. And I'm like a lot of other people starting their businesses, going out on their own. They hear the going rate stuff. They hear, they read a book or their grandfather tells them, well, just slap 20% on.
Yeah.
I would take my costs and multiply them by 1.27. So markup, not margin.
Yeah.
But dude, I thought I was ripping people off.
Right. Right.
But I was still broke. And it turns out that the only one that was getting ripped off was me because I was doing excellent work.
Yeah.
I was working, set my fingers to the bone. I was just poor.
Yeah.
Broke.
Yeah.
I didn't know there
well,
was
nobody
another way.
that listens to the show can relate to that.
No, nobody can. I mean, nobody in Battleground has a similar story at all.
Right.
I'm a unicorn when it comes to being a poor contractor.
That's right.
So,
yeah. There's not many of those. So you jumped in. From my vantage point, I can, I didn't know you real well when you jumped in, but from what I could see in the group, you jumped in and you just showed up. You did the work. You tell us about that. Like, what did that look like? And then after a year, where were you?
Yeah. So coming in, and that was before it was even Battleground. It was the 100K and the CSA.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in, and the first thing that I did was I learned what a KPI was.
Mm-hmm.
I started learning my numbers and learning what I needed to charge to make money. And then I went through the marketing boot camp, which is awesome. And I learned how to start building a brand because I wasn't marketing.
Right.
I used to run an ad on Craigslist that said skilled carpenter for hire, reasonable rates.
Yeah. Reasonable to who?
Exactly. I always got work anytime I ran that ad.
Yeah.
But the most money I'd ever invested in marketing was probably like the $50 for that box of business cards.
Yeah. Okay.
It wasn't much. But I went through marketing boot camp, and that really helped me learn how to build a brand and establish myself in the marketplace in my area. And then I started learning Shinfu, and I started learning how to sell. And it all just worked together. And I'd never gave up.
Right.
I remember turning in goose eggs on KPI sheets on Fridays for weeks, and I just didn't give up. It was like in the military. I just one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
You just don't stop.
So let's dig into that a bit. Like, what'd you do in the Army?
Infantry.
Yeah. So Marine Corps infantry here. So bullet stoppers.
That's
right?
pretty much it. Yeah.
And, and pack mules and all that good stuff. So how long were you in the Army?
6 years total.
6 years. Afghanistan, Iraq.
Yep.
All right. How long
Luckily,
were you there?
never
How many
went.
tours?
Two
tours.
Yeah. Luckily, never Afghanistan.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Feel bad for those guys.
Yeah. Before the Army, were you always gritty like this? Like,
I can use my circumstances, my childhood as Cameron Haynes said it, and I said this in front of a crowd of people a couple of weeks ago. I could use my childhood as a crutch or a chisel.
Yeah.
And I was forced to use it as a chisel.
Okay.
I went through, my stepdad trying to kill my mom in front of me, living in the back of a Geo Tracker for a moment of time, living in a place that had holes in the floor with no heat or air. I mean, all kinds of crap. And it taught me how to be resilient.
Yeah.
Because I had to depend on myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, the mindset of I don't need your help came from.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one is coming to help me. So there was no option.
Yeah.
It was either that or I'd give up.
Yeah.
And it just was never an option.
So why, all right, the first few years of your business, you're not making money, 12 grand on a W-2 or whatever it was, whatever your amount was, right? It wasn't a lot.
No.
Why didn't you just tap out and go get a job?
Well,
Like, was that ever a conversation at home?
it was never a conversation with my wife.
Yeah.
It was a conversation with the voice inside my head, though.
Yeah.
I started out framing houses, and I think the most I ever made was like $12 an hour.
Dude, you were making bank, man. That was
Yeah, I was rolling in it, right? We'd had our son.
And was that as an employee?
As an employee.
So $12 an hour after the Army.
Yeah.
So you're making a little more than you were making in the Army. Barely, right?
I got out as an E5, so I was
right.
doing a little bit better.
All right.
But the thing is it just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
I worked on the weekends too. And I shared this at Mile High a couple years ago. I worked 7 days a week for a while. So my son is born and I don't get to really see him much. I'm not making money, and I'm getting pretty good at this carpentry thing. I can go do it for myself.
Yeah.
I want to be home more, and I want to make more money. So I go out on my own. I'm working the same amount, and I'm making around the same amount of money. And then I start working more because I'm trying to build a business, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was incredibly difficult during that time.
But you kept the business going just because, like in all seriousness here, I've created so much, we and the team and me and whatever have created so much content here in the fight that in the first couple years, we made no income here from all the content we were creating. And somebody asked me a while ago, like, why didn't you tap out? Because I had people on my ear going, what are you doing? Like, when is this thing going to turn into something and make in the first couple of years? And I honestly think I was, and I don't mean this in a self-deprecating way. I think I was too stupid to quit. Like, I literally mean and I didn't have a better option.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I could go and I could get a job, right? Or I could start another business or whatever. I'd already been successful building businesses and stuff. But like what I had here as a vision for where we were going, I didn't know what it was going to be, but I knew it was going to be pretty special.
Yeah.
So that's what kept me going. I'm just curious, like.
So mine was pride.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to go to my wife and say, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I failed. I thought about it. I was thinking about it for weeks before I discovered the Contractor Fight.
Right.
It wasn't a coincidence that I found the fight. I believe it was a God thing, really.
Yeah.
But I was like, this just isn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not ever going to be successful. I'm going to continue to do this. So I'm going to call my old boss back, who would have loved to have me. And I'm just going to go back and maybe I'll make $15 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll do some side work on the weekends. And then we'll just go from there. But things work out for a reason, man.
Yeah. So, Lindsay, your wife, was she working at the time that you had started your business?
Yeah. Full time.
Was she making more money than you?
Yeah.
What'd that do to your psyche?
Oh.
Like, and I don't mean to be like a chauvinistic dick here, you know what I mean? Like, for those listening, but like, I just know personally as a man, I'm old school, I'm 54, I'm wired to be the provider. And this isn't taking anything away from my wife. My wife is a strong woman. So I don't mean it in that way. I just mean like, I know like the pride and your work ethic and this and that. I'm just curious.
I felt this big because there were times where I'd say, babe, you got $20. And to ask my wife for that it was horrible, man. And I felt like I was failing her. I felt like I was failing at everything.
Yeah.
And it was just, it tears you apart. And I think anyone that's ever been there, and it's not that I'm so appreciative for her and how she's busted her ass to take care of our family. And she continues to do that. But I wouldn't want it to ever go back to being like that.
Right.
I want to be the one that takes care of her and that takes care of our family because that's my role as a husband, as a father. I'm the leader of our family. Yeah. So for the leader to have that moment, that's pretty humbling right there.
Yeah. I remember one year, I I think it was the year right after I sold my business, long time ago. There was a couple year period where I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was going to do. Okay. And I was blessed to have time to figure it out. But I think it was the year after I went and did my taxes, family of 5, and I had brought in like 26 grand because I would do like a speaking gig here, or I'd do a consulting thing here, whatever it was. And, I really was just kind of, I don't even think the podcast had started yet.
Yeah.
And I remember making what I had been making and then going to do the taxes again, below probably the poverty line at some point. I don't even know what it is, but 26 grand, that ain't shit. Right. And so, anyway, so I got some things that I want to dig in. I want to get into the group and I'm trying to give everybody some context here, just who we are here, who you are, before we get into that. So let's wrap up. So what happened? You're in the group for a year. Okay. And guys, this isn't a pitch for the group. This is just context for you, how quickly things can change, happened, right?
Yeah.
So you jump in 12 months later. So you made maybe 12 grand, maybe to 300 grand, not making money, this and that. Year later, where was the business?
A year later, I'm doing over $1 million for the first time in my life. Mm-hmm. And I'm carrying over a 50% gross profit.
Well, you did well over him. You sold 2.7.
Yeah.
You? Yeah.
Yeah. But it was like 6, 7. It was I can't remember exactly, but it was between 6 and 8 months.
Yeah.
That when I first started implementing, that I hit the $1 million mark. And I was just like, I didn't know it was possible. Mm-hmm. This is like,
well, I think less than 9% of any companies in any industry do $1 million.
Yeah.
And you did it in a few months.
Yeah. And then at the end of the year, I'm doing over 2, but and one thing, this is what I've realized even since then, is that, sales is great, but it doesn't mean anything if you're not profitable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was able to turn a profit. I paid myself 6 figures on a W-2.
Yeah.
And took a profit distribution every quarter, like checks for $25,000, checks for $50,000 a quarter.
Yeah.
The most money I've ever made in my life. And it happened in the span of a year.
Right.
It wasn't easy by any stretch, but
what was the hardest part?
The hardest part was, it was all mental. It wasn't the learning my numbers. It wasn't implementing. It wasn't role playing Shinfu or anything like that. It was the mindset shift that I had to have, because just like any other contractor that doesn't know any better, I was so used to doing the tap dance and talking about how good I was, and it was all about me. But I noticed that once I switched and I turned everything to be about my clients, and I realized that it wasn't transactional, but more transformational. Like I'm actually changing somebody's life. That's when it was like a switch that flipped.
So did you ever, because I know you've talked to guys in our group and I see comments like this from time to time where guys are like, I know I need to raise my prices, but they're caught in that no man's land of raising their prices, but being fair to their customers and not having the head trash that are ripping them off. Was that ever an issue with you?
No.
Why not?
No. So, I think this is one of the reasons why
you
and I
answered so good. You're like, nope.
This is why you and I get along so well, is we're very similar. Is like, all right, let's go. This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's it goes back to how I found the fight. It was in a Facebook group for framing contractors. Someone tagged a page called the Contractor Fight, and I was like, what's that? That sounds kind of neat.
That's badass.
Right?
Yeah.
Click that button, and then I end up on a YouTube page, and I see your mug on YouTube, and admittedly, I watched you for like 8 hours. I stayed up all night, binge watching.
Did you have your shirt on or off when you were watching me?
I don't sleep with clothes on, so naturally.
Do you have your iPad in bed with me, like date
big
night
screen,
with Tom?
AirPods in.
Yeah.
Wife was sleeping.
Yeah,
Had a little mood light going on.
What you're looking at. Yeah,
I actually take the covers and pull them up over my head. I call it my fort, right?
Yeah.
That's a true story. You ask her, I do it.
I love it.
But so that's the first time I heard about a 50% gross profit.
Yeah.
And that's the same night I learned what it actually meant.
Yeah.
It too in another video. So that was cool. And then so it was immediately I said, okay, this is what I'm doing. Here we go.
Yeah.
It was all in head first. Like I got nothing left. I'm either gonna give up or this is the direction I'm going to go. Because it just made sense.
Not surprising getting to know you over the past few years that because you're an all-in guy.
I don't gradually do anything.
Yeah, because some people will be like, all right, I'm at a 30% now or 20%. I'm going to sell at 25 and then I'm going to inch and there are some people that's appropriate for,
Sure.
right? Like there's always context, but then every now and then there's somebody like you that just comes in.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, this is the new normal. Even if it fucking kills my business, this is the new normal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do everything my wife says to the extreme.
Yeah.
Right. So I quit drinking cold turkey. I just stopped. Right. Same thing with quitting smoking and all that stuff. I'm the kind of guy if I say I'm going to go to a vehicle dealership to look at a truck, I'm coming home with a vehicle.
Yeah.
It's just that's how I am. I don't have time to screw around. So.
All right, so year goes by. There's so many things I want to talk to you about that I'm looking at on my list here that I want to get into. I'm just trying to give people a feel for this. So you didn't have any issues about, I want to be fair to my customers. So talk about that for the person who's like, because I will, you followed our shit enough in the fight to see the comments people will leave when I talk about 50% gross profit. And they're like, you're fucking a thief. You're ripping people off. You know, all this. What do you say to that person who's got that thinking going on?
I say the same thing that you say, and I heard from your mouth that night. Stop stealing from your family.
Right.
Because someone is going to get that money. Someone deserves that money, and it's my family. Now, if you do a crappy job, you do a crappy service, you're just a crappy person, then you probably don't deserve it. But I bust my ass to do the right thing. I lead with integrity in everything that I do, and I deserve that money. And so does my family.
Well, higher prices in the absence of value is unethical.
Exactly. Okay, then you are ripping people
But here's
off.
the other thing is guys will go, oh, that 50% shit is too high. When I go, you're too high priced, and I go, no, you're appropriately priced. Right?
You think this bottle of water,
Yeah.
you want to know how much gross profit they have built in a bottle of Life water? It's water with a cool label. And we paid, what, like $4 a bottle for this?
Yeah.
It probably cost them $0.25 to make.
I'm sold. I remember when bottled water became a thing. And there were so many people going, why would you pay for water when you can just get it out of the sink?
Yeah.
Because it's convenience and make my life easier. I'm on the road. I'm doing whatever, right?
And now it's even a style, a status thing.
Maybe we should have fight water.
I was thinking about that.
Life water? We could have fight water. Huh? I don't know.
Do you think we can get a Sharpie somewhere and we can just do that real quick?
We could do whatever the hell we want, man.
Let's do it.
So,
we're going to get cheaper water, though.
So a couple years ago, because you've been at this for a while, you've been multi-million-dollar business. You sell everything at a 50% gross profit. Use all subcontractors, which, by the way, you can't do that. You can't do that. I don't know if you knew that, but you can't be a GC doing, 70, 100, 200,000 $1 million projects at a 50%. You can't do that. Is the word on the street. So tell us, you had an incident a few years, you didn't see this one coming, did you? A couple years ago where I believe you gave back a $500,000 check. Did I get my math right?
Yeah, that was it.
Tell us this story. What happened?
So that was the first year. So that was 2021. So we'll call that fight year one, right? I had already done $1 million.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was in a much better position than I had ever been in my life. And I ended up. It was
like halfway through the year, right?
Yeah.
Around 6-8 months through the year, you're hit $1 million.
And then I'm in the fall
of 21.
This is like right around the first Mile High Profit Summit. Because I remember talking to the guy while there. I sold a whole home renovation on like a 10,000 square foot log cabin.
Okay.
For 1.8. and 50% gross profit.
So you sold a $1.8 million renovation
Yeah.
at a 50% gross profit.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you can't do that.
Well, I didn't think so either, but I mean, the numbers were the numbers, and I had nothing to lose.
Right.
And it worked. And I was so excited. I remember going live in the Facebook group.
I remember that.
And now just beaming, right?
Right.
And then this family, they had hired a designer. We're already working with them, and they had picked out all their materials just about. So I get a deposit from them, $500,000 check, and I start ordering all this material. And some of it is unavailable because it's 2021. The COVID stuff is all still crazy.
Yep.
Some of the stuff they just don't make anymore. I mean, we had floors trying to get imported from Poland, right? It wasn't cheap shit. So I'm going back and forth with this guy, and I'm like, look, we're going to have to make some concessions and make some adjustments with the designer here. And he's like, well, no, this is what we paid you to get this and this and this. And I said, well, that's kind of on your designer, right?
Yeah.
But he turned into be just a real jerk. And I remember having these internal arguments with myself of like, I don't want to work for this guy for a year. I don't want to be around him for a year because that's how long this project was going to take me. And here I am making over $1 million for the first time in my life. I'm going to pay myself over 6 figures. I'm showing up as a better husband and as a better father because I'm not stressed to the max about money. And I'm going to go right back. I'm going to be a slave to this asshole for dollar signs.
It's almost like you saw the writing on the wall and you're going, am I choosing to invite this shit show into my life?
Yeah, because he was going to rule over me for a year,
right.
And that was going to affect how I showed up as a dad and as a husband. And I just decided I wasn't going to do that. So I arranged a Zoom meeting with him. And I said, look, we either have to do it this way or I don't want it. And he said, no. I said, okay, well, then I'm going to go ahead and cancel the contract. And I'm going to send you a certified check for $500,000 back, certified mail. And I did it the next day.
So you're on this Zoom call. Talk to me, put me in the moment, man. His expression, his body language, his demeanor when you told him, like, we ain't doing this.
He was arms folded. So he was a wealthy guy.
Yeah.
He owned several aquatic centers. He was in the financial industry.
Yeah.
Was really my ideal client. He was just an asshole.
Yeah.
But he thought that I'm just a contractor.
You're the help.
Right. I'm the help.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I told him no. And he did not like it.
Nobody ever told him no. Right?
He started whining, right?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, here you go. And I remember sending the money back because I did it the next day. And I remember feeling conflicted. In one part, I felt like my balls were so big I needed a wheelbarrow because I just gave back a $500,000 check.
Yeah.
The other part is I can't believe I just turned down $1.8 million and potentially, almost $1 million in gross profit. Like, I can't believe I just did that.
Yeah.
And then the other voice is like, you just showed up for your family.
Yeah.
You just did the right thing. You just said that you couldn't be bought anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's huge, man.
I didn't share it with anybody for a month. It was like,
I remember hearing about it and my jaw hit the floor because seriously, like, who does that? Well, Anthony does because his balls are in a wheelbarrow.
I was so ashamed to honestly, to share it in the group because I was so excited when I sold it and everybody else was so excited with me. And then it's like I had to tuck my tail in between my legs, like I screwed up. But then I realized that I did the right thing.
Yeah.
And if I had to do it again, I would.
So looking back on that, what are some key takeaways that you can give another contractor from that moment where let's face it, most contractors have never gotten a $500,000 deposit check.
Yeah.
Right. And yet you got a $500,000. Obviously it's not all profit, but it's to work towards producing the job. Right.
It was in my checking account, man.
And how long how long when you got the check to when you gave him his money back?
2 weeks.
So
3
I also
weeks?
think, okay, so 2-3 weeks, that's remarkable that you didn't fucking spend it like a lot of guys do, right?
Well, hey, if I didn't sell the $1 million before that,
Right.
I would have.
You would have.
I would have had some of it,
So-
and that would have been like, oh
Yeah.
crap.
So
You know?
takeaways. What some lessons, takeaways you can give somebody looking back?
Don't get jaded by the dollar signs,
Mm-hmm.
right? And no amount of money is worth how you show up for the people that you love. Don't sell out.
Mm-hmm.
If you're used to being poor, you see 6 figures, you see
Yeah.
2 commas and stuff, and
Yep.
you get all excited and you forget why you're doing it. We miss the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
So don't let the dollar signs fool you. Sometimes it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. You have to say, do I even want to take this job? Am I going to be happy? Is it worth it? Because if it's not, don't do it.
Well, when you use the phrase selling out, my mind first went to, okay, well, how do we sell out? What does it look like to sell out? And to me, it's like, hey, this job's going to be a hassle, but we lie to ourselves and tell ourselves shit's not going to go wrong. Or I sold out. I talked about it in my first book. I say first book because my second one's about to come out. But where I sold a $28,000 job, which for me was the biggest job I'd ever done at the time.
Sure.
In my first year of business, it cost me $45,000 to do the job. And I was warned. My cousin Mike, who worked for me, was in a bar having a beer, and they're like, yeah, we're going to start working on this street, this house on Benton Street. And the contractor guys at the bar were like, oh, is that the one that blah, blah, blah? And they're like, yeah, stay clear. That guy's GC in his own project. Everybody says it's a shit show. He doesn't know what he's doing. And I was broke. I had no money going into the winter. And so I didn't have the $1 million sold like you did.
Yeah.
And so I lied to myself and said, we'll be different, right? That's I'm different than all these other contractors that have been working there. So
that's like going back to an abusive spouse in a relationship or something. It'll be different this time.
Yeah.
It'll be different this time. It's never different.
No. And so, so you had some runway of the work sold, give the job or the check back. Did you start filling the revenue right away?
Yeah, I started selling projects. So what took me a year to produce, granted, it was not in my work area. It's not where all my other projects are.
Yeah.
It was an hour north where I usually work about 45 minutes south.
And where are you at again?
Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay, for people that don't know.
So this cabin was right on the North Carolina-Virginia border.
Yeah.
So I'm talking like an hour and a half stretch from where my other clients live. This would have been the only project that I could have done. So it actually freed me up.
Yeah.
I was able to do more projects in my area because I managed more than one at a time. And it ended up working out. I mean, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was we think about like blessings in disguise and things happen for a reason, and it certainly did. I'm so glad I didn't end up working for that asshole.
Well, I think my experience has been when your spidey sense is tingling and we lie to ourselves, right? We sell out, and bullshit ourselves and don't trust our spidey sense. You would have jumped into at least a year-long project. And if they're being that much of a pain in the ass up front, your spidey sense is ignored. You might have finished the job. You probably wouldn't have made the profit you thought.
No.
And my guess is, all right, if, what was it, 1.8?
Yep.
So call it $900,000 of gross profit money. After a year, you probably did at least that, if not more, in gross profit money with all the other projects you did.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is that
And you were happier.
I was happier. Yeah, I was happier, and I didn't have to worry about that guy. Because even if I did that job, it wouldn't have ended up on good terms.
Right.
It just wouldn't have. He never would have been happy with me, with the work being done, or with anything.
Dude, you chop that shit off fast, man. Like that's a lesson I hope people hear is like,
slow to hire and quick to fire, and you can fire a client.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. All right. So speaking of firing,
Yeah. I've done that once or twice.
You fired somebody on the airplane today.
Yeah.
What happened?
So
Like he flew in today, guys, and from the East Coast, landed here in Colorado Springs at about 9:30 a.m. my time. And by the time he got here, you had let somebody go. What happened? What's the context of this?
So, excuse me. We're always looking to build and establish relationships with new subs.
Yep.
It's just like having employees. You're always hiring, right? So we needed a carpenter to come in and do some demo in a kitchen that we have starting Monday.
Okay. Today's what? Thursday.
Today's Thursday. So
Thursday.
Monday we start. Dumpsters being delivered tomorrow, and so we figured we give this guy a shot. He's a combat vet. He's a young GC. He reminds me a lot of me when I first started.
Mm-hmm.
Likable guy. So he says, yeah, we can do it. We talk money. Money's great on, for me, the money's great. And for him, I don't know his numbers, but everything is working. And I said, okay, well, I need a certificate of insurance. I need a W-9. I need you to sign the subcontractor agreement. I need all this stuff. And he says, okay, yeah, I'll get it over to you tomorrow.
Tomorrow meaning when?
So that would have been
a week ago or something.
Like last Friday.
Okay. So barely a week. Okay.
Last Friday. So it was somewhere around there. Didn't hear from him. So I let him go the weekend. I reached out to him. It was either Sunday evening or Monday this week. And I said, hey, are we still on for next week? I hadn't, what's going on? He said, yeah, we're still good. A day later.
Okay.
I'm a stickler for communication. Like, got to communicate.
Yeah.
Giant red flag is up in the air already.
Yeah.
He says, yeah, I'll send you everything over tomorrow. Tomorrow was yesterday. I did not receive it.
Yeah.
I received it while I was on the plane this morning.
Yeah.
And once I did not receive it, I had my ninja, Colleen, already getting the next guy lined up and ready to go.
Okay.
And so get a ninja. That's a life lesson.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Colleen in a few minutes here.
But I just sent and said, look, I'm sure you're a great guy and you do great stuff, but I need someone that can communicate with me. This just isn't going to work out on this project. Maybe we should have a discussion later on and manage some expectations.
Yeah.
All there is to it. I'm not going to stress out waiting. Is he going to send me this stuff? Is he actually going to show up Monday morning? Mm-hmm. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Because
you're out of town for 3 days. You got shit going on, right?
Exactly.
So, and the reason I brought this up is you talk a lot in our group and the coaching that you do about how to build a subcontractor team, you not only as a GC sell all your work at a 50%, you do it with a whole subcontractor workforce, which by the way, you can't do that.
No, I can't do that
either. And sometimes you talk so much about taking care of them and loving your team and this and that I think sometimes people don't see you're dead to me side of you. Like your values are what they are.
Yeah.
And you didn't even, just full disclosure, most people, self-included, on the plane here, I got him. I would have been like, okay, he sent him over. Because I like everybody. Like, I'm one of these people that I find a reason to like and hire anybody, which is why I'm not in charge of hiring.
Yeah.
Because I like everybody. And I'm like the king of second chances. And so, but I totally respect the fact that you just said, you have set a standard in your business.
Yeah.
And you're like, if you fuck with my standard, we're done. Like, you might be a good dude, right? No ill will. You just don't get to be on the team.
Yeah. And I've been given so many second chances in my life, and third and fourth and fifth chances. Mm-hmm. Just not on this project. We'll have a conversation. And there's more to it than that, because Colleen is so awesome. Mm-hmm. Before I fired him and before he got back to me, I already had the next guy lined up. So he was going to get let go anyway because he didn't respond to me.
Right.
I just hadn't sent the message.
You just haven't sent the message. So there you go. You're like the mob boss.
Yeah. But I have asked my wife. I do everything to the max, everything to the extreme. There's no slack or forgiveness. I have high standards for excellence. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes I have a hard time easing up on some standards sometimes, because in realizing that not everybody holds the same standards that I do for themselves.
Yeah.
I have a high level of personal accountability and excellence, and I hold others to a high standard. So when people hear me talk about loving and nurturing my subs and the team that I've built and really trying to take care of them, trying to coach them to be more profitable, trying to bring them into the fight, some of my subs are in the fight.
Yeah.
And it's because they meet the standard.
Right.
Like, they meet the standard. And if not, then they don't work for me.
All right. With your subs, your team, employees, this and that, are you one to give trust initially, or are you one to expect your trust to be earned?
That's a great question. Why do you ask?
Don't shit for my ass.
So I'm kind of in the camp that everyone's got to start with some. You got to give them a little bit, right? And then we can build on it. Yeah. I'm not going to turn the keys to the whole business over to them on the first day,
right?
But I'm going to give them a few things, and if they do that well, then we'll continue to build on it. But
yeah. Well, you did give them an opportunity in the last week to earn your trust by honoring the commitments that he made.
Send me a text back real quick, man.
Yeah. Even if the text was, hey, I know I said I was going to get this to you today. I got hung up in the field. I will, is it cool if I get it tomorrow? If not, I'll stay up and burn the midnight oil, right? Yeah. Whatever it is, it's some sort of communication.
And as we're sitting here and we're talking about this, I hope he hears this, and I'll share it with him. Because if there's a lesson that he can learn, is like, maybe if he stepped up the communication, I don't know what his business looks like. I don't know how much he's selling. I don't know what his client relationships look like or anything like that. So maybe this is an opportunity for growth for him as well.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to bring him into the fight so he can become profitable.
So here's the thing that I've learned about trust and money and business, and one of the many things is, yes, the work is important, right? The paint job is important. The carpentry, whatever your service is important. But the game changer is the experience. And what a lot of guys that sub for GCs don't understand is that the GC is the customer. Not the GC's customer, but like if I were your painting contractor, you're my customer, and you're going to remember the experience. Am I a pain in the ass to work with or not? Right? Am I, when your phone rings and it's me, is your first thought, he's going to fucking bail on me again?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or what's wrong
and
now?
That's where we had great relationships, mostly with all of our builders and GCs as a painting company, because of the communication factor. And I just see so many, it bothers me to the point that I rant and lose my shit on here from time to time, because it's friendly fire.
Yeah.
And being military guys, we know there's nothing fucking worse than friendly fire. And you carry that shit over into your business when you don't return. Like, I got a flooring guy. He's great. He does great work, this and that. I've told the story here before. Like, he said, we wanted floor hardwood in a couple of rooms in the house, right? And we had hired him before. We called him again. He gave us a start date of a Wednesday. This was like last summer or spring. It was like a year ago. And Wednesday we'll start. Well, the Queen and I get busy. Life happens. We know they're coming Wednesday. That's what we were told like 2 weeks ago.
You're planning on it. You're rearranging your life for this.
And the night before, she's like, oh, the floor guys are coming tomorrow. We got to, move some of the big shit out of the rooms and, whatever, right? And I'm like, well, did you talk to them? And she's like, no, have you? And I'm like, no. So I sent him a text. It was like 9:00 at night, the night before. And I'm like, hey, what's the word?
Yeah, haven't heard from you.
And he's like, yeah, we'll be there in the morning. And I'm like, well, it would have been nice to get a fucking time, an arrival time. And he's like, oh, we'll be there between 9 and 10 or some shit like that. Like, I don't give a shit what time you start. But the point is what, and I like the guy, kind of like you with this carpenter, right? He's a good dude. Like, they do good work. But here's the issue that I had is and contractors do this so many times with their clients, is you make people guess what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And I always say that silence separates. right? And when silence separates, you begin, if you're the customer, the employee, the sub, whatever, or me as the GC, however the relationship is, we each start making up our own stories, and they're usually never good. Because I'll tell you, I'm like, did you hear from him? She's like, no. And I'm like, fucking contractors. Like, like, and, for all I know, something tragic happened, whatever, that's cool, but like, not cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, you're making life harder for yourself when you don't communicate with people.
Yeah. Even if it's a bad conversation, like something's wrong, the longer you wait, the worse it's going to get. We build this stuff up in our heads.
I'm not a fucking mind reader, man.
No. So it's like, hey, you spilled 5 gallons of paint on the floor. Tell me as soon as it happens.
Yeah.
So I can start taking action. Don't tell me after it's already dried.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So let's get out in the front of this stuff.
Yeah, and this was an edge in our company years ago. Our edge was our communication.
Yeah.
Like we had great painters and the quality was solid and all this other stuff. Great people. My old business partner was a master with the scheduling and communication. Our crew leaders would call the homeowners and confirm start times and transfer the trust visits that we call them. And the client never had to wonder what was happening next. That was our superpower. It wasn't the paint job. And over and over and over on all the grade cards we get hundreds of times a year, it was like, they're so kind, they communicate great, they're easy to work with. So those of you guys that are listening to this, like, if you're not making it easy for people to work with you, it's friendly fire.
You're losing.
Yeah. And so what you did, I want to transition here. One of the things you did is you were growing your revenue. You knew that to keep the experience going on, you needed help in the office. Because you were running a $2 million business or whatever by yourself and your subs, and then decided, not even a year ago, last April of 2023 was our event.
That's when we were in Florida.
And we had our event down there. Mike McAllowitz was there. And you walked out of there going, I got to hire an assistant.
Yeah.
And
it was within a week.
Yeah. Within a week you had her hired.
Well, I made the commitment, I think, in front of the room that I was going to hire an assistant within a week.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I had her hired within a week. I think it was within 10 days though.
Yeah.
So
close enough.
I had interviews going. I wrote the job ad while I was there.
So fill us in. What happened there?
So I came home from the event just like I do from every other event with my hair on fire. And I'm just like, okay, this is what I got to do. I tell Lindsay, my wife, and she said, okay, you got to do what you got to do. And so I line up interviews, and Colleen is my first interview, and she's checking all the boxes. I'm really going more for character than I am for competency, because I can teach someone how to post on social media. I can teach someone how to use HubSpot. I can train people, but I need them to be teachable.
Yeah.
I need them to be reliable, to have integrity, and to have passion. And she ran a restaurant for 14 years. She was the GM of a restaurant. And I said, okay.
So that's a fast pace, under pressure.
Fast pace, under pressure.
Yeah.
She's client facing, right? And there's longevity there.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want someone that's going to be there for just a year or 6 months. I want someone to be part of this culture, to be with me as we build out, the whole company. Like, she's going to be with me. And so I saw that, and then she kind of tugged at my heartstrings, right? She's a single mom, newly single mom, 2 young girls, and had to leave the restaurant because of the working hours. She's working for this other company that's like, I guess they were really strict on hours and time, and it just was not jiving. So she cried during the interview on Zoom, like the first interview, when I told her about how flexible it would be. It's like, you can take your kids to the doctor, take your kids to the doctor, right?
Right.
Because I'm going to do the same for mine.
Yeah.
That's why I do what I do.
Yeah.
And I was pretty set in hiring her after the first conversation, but I did have other interviews that I promised. So I had to do them. I had to do the right thing, because I'll always do the right thing. And She called me the next day as I was buying a new laptop for her, really.
Right.
And she called me, left me a voicemail asking me for the job.
Yeah.
And I went through a few other interviews. I had several just not even show up.
Yeah.
One that said, well, I only want this job for a year before I go do something else. Like, okay, later, dude.
Yeah.
And then I hired her on a Saturday. I mean, I built out a welcome backpack that had her backpack, her laptop, her phone, her planner, a copy of The Fight.
Yep.
Copy of, I think it was Atomic Habits, just some other general stuff that might be helpful for her. And I offered her the job on the spot. And
That's rolling the red, man. Like, seriously, like what, like I remember hiring people in the past way back in the day where they'd show up on the first day and I'd be like, oh shit, you're starting today.
I've done that before.
Yeah. And oops.
Yeah. But knowing what I know now and being around this tribe of people and bringing myself to another standard.
Yeah.
Because I've had employees in the past and they didn't work out. And I realized that a lot of it was probably because of my leadership or my lack thereof.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do this differently. And so building a culture was never something that I thought about. And I said, if I'm going to build a culture, I'm going to start the right way.
Yeah.
And this is how it's going to be.
So there's people listening to this that need to hire their first employee.
Yeah.
What do you tell them? Advice. Whether it's a field employee, an office employee, whatever, like just some broad strokes of.
I think character over competency is important because let's say you are a painter, right? I'd much rather take a person that is willing to work hard, that's willing to learn, that is intelligent, and will always do the right thing, that has little experience, than take a master craftsman who's a shithead, that doesn't want to show up on time,
prima donna.
I don't want that.
We've all had those guys, right?
I don't want that.
Or been them.
So I think first and foremost is figure out what your culture is, what your values are, your core values, and then hire around that. Make sure that they fit that. They have to align to the vision and the culture. Yeah. And if you don't get buy-in immediately, then that's probably the wrong fit. Trust your gut. Learn how to ask really good open-ended questions. I mean, it's like the Shin Fu. Yeah. I Shin Fu'd her. I learned how to ask good questions, and here I am using it in somewhere else other than sales.
All right. So before we move on, you hired Colleen. You gave a couple tips here, advice, somebody hiring their first person. What do you say to the guy who asked the question? Because I'm sure you see this question in our group a lot. How do I afford my employee? How do you approach that?
So it's not a one line answer because it depends. And I'm going to geek out about numbers for a second because it matters. Yes. All right. You have to think about what kind of employee they're going to be. So if it's field labor, that would be an hourly employee, which would be considered cost of goods sold. Right. So that's easy, right? You have to pay them. They're just part of your job costs. Now, Colleen, she's a salaried employee. She gets paid every Friday, whether we have a bunch of work or no work. Right. She's an overhead employee. So what that means is that my overhead increases. I might have to increase my gross profit percentage depending on how much I'm making and what I'm selling at in order to overcome that gross profit. And, right. We talk about our break-even revenue. This is where it comes into play. My mind is going right now. We're about to get in a wormhole and do a numbers call on this. So I think it depends. But if you're trying to figure out how you're going to afford your employee, if it's a labor, if it's an hourly employee, do you have the work? Yeah. Do you have the work to support it? They will make you money. Employees are an investment. They're not a cost, right? 100%. They're asset, not liability. Yep. Your field employees, your field labor, these guys and gals, they are generating your profit for you. They are profit generating machines. They're just humans, and we have to treat them well and nurture them and all that stuff. Yep. Not to say that overhead employees don't generate profit either. It's just in a different capacity. Right. Well, she frees you up. Exactly. Right? To sell, to manage, to recruit,
to do the things that you do best.
Yep.
And which in turn drives revenue.
Exactly.
So yeah, 100%. And on this note, since we're going to geek out on the math, I got to pull out a calculator.
All right.
So let's just, for those listening, we talk about the numbers a lot. You flew in town mainly to do this and to record our new numbers course that we have coming out.
Yeah.
Right? And we're going to dig into that deeper. But guys, here's the thing. If you have, let's just take an overhead employee and use $30,000 as a simple number, right?
Okay.
If I'm going to pay with somebody $30,000 to be like an admin assistant or something, right? Whatever the role is, part-time, full, I don't give a shit. It's 30 grand.
Mm-hmm.
That's going out, like you said, because it's overhead, no matter if you're doing jobs or not. Okay, just like paying the shop rent is and the truck payment, it has to be paid. At a 50% gross profit, you take the 30 grand divided by 0.5, you have to do an additional $60,000 of revenue at a 50% gross profit
every year,
just to break even on the money of this person each year. Okay. Here's where this gets crazy. At 30 grand, those listening right now that are banging out at, say, a 30% gross profit, that same $30,000 employee divided by 0.3, you got to bring in $100,000, 40 grand more.
Isn't that crazy how that works?
So let's go back to the 60 grand. Say you're a painter and your average job size is $7,500, right? You take 60 grand divided by 7,500, you got to do another 8 jobs
to cover that.
Just to cover, and then let's say your sales close rate is 35%, 8 divided by 0.35, you got to bring in another 23 leads a year just to sell the 8 jobs at the 50%, okay, to break even on that person. Now, this is totally doable, but this is why it's important to understand math. Now, take that same $30,000 where it was a 30% gross profit, the 100 grand to break even, $7,500 a job. You need, call it 14 jobs at a 35% close rate and 40 more leads just to break even on the same dollars because your gross profit is lower.
Yeah.
So everything, my coach always says to me, Tom, pretty much every problem you're going to have in business is a math problem, right?
It's all numbers.
It's math. And so for those that are like, how do I afford this? Or this could not be a $30,000 employee. This could be you want to rent a shop space. It's going to cost you $1,000 a month at a 50%. You got to sell and produce at least $2,000 a month to pay for the $1,000.
Yeah. Any increase in overhead has the same effect.
Right.
You have to recover it. And people don't realize that, and they think, well, I'm going to do this, this, and this, but I'm not selling anything. I'm not making money. You're not making enough to cover the additional expense.
Yeah.
And that's why we say the numbers are the foundation of our business, and success comes to those who track.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If we don't, that like the higher ups of Google have some people tracking stuff.
Oh, big
right.
time. Yep.
Jeff Bezos probably tracks some stuff by himself for a little while, but then he's got people doing it for him. Elon Musk, he's tracking something.
Yep.
So why don't we? Right. If we want to be successful, we need to track and we need to understand our numbers.
So before you found the fight, did you ever look at your numbers?
No.
Okay. Like, what did you know you had to? You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes it's just true ignorance. Like, I didn't know this was a thing.
So I had QuickBooks. I never thought of. I would look at like the P&L at the end of the year every now and then, and it's like didn't matter because even if it said I had a profit, the money wasn't in the bank.
Yeah, that's right.
So no, I would. The only number I was really ever concerned about was how much did I sell this year. Yeah, and like it mattered because I wasn't making any on it anyway. I lost a lot of money for the longest time. So no, that was. If I would have just known my numbers back then, I would have been light years ahead of where I was.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I look at how much money I left on the table in the first few years of business, and it's depressing.
And you know what? And I see this every week when we have new members in Battleground come through the BG90 program, and I'm their first coach that they usually have a conversation with, and we start looking at numbers, you see heads drop, you see, and I get it. We've all we've all had that moment of, oh shit. But the thing is that now you're here. Now you're doing something about it. That's
right.
That's not you anymore. Now you're doing the right thing. Now you are tracking. Now you are going to learn how to job cost. Now you are going to learn what your break even is and how to calculate all the cool stuff that you just calculated.
Right.
And be profitable. And do it intentionally. That's the cool part.
Yeah, and learn the lessons and move on. Don't beat yourself up. I mean, the results that we get today are
6
from
months
the
ago.
choices we made yesterday, basically.
Yeah.
So if you want different results tomorrow, make a different choice today. That's it.
And to piggyback on that, I used to hate when like NCOs would say that shit.
Yeah.
To piggyback off of what the commander said, but to
Piggyback,
piggyback off of what the commander of the fight said is that. It goes in line as they say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, the second best time is today.
Right.
So don't beat yourself up for what you did. Let's just fix it now. Let's move forward.
So Lee, my wife, the queen, she hunter jumper trainer in the equestrian world. She was one of the top amateur riders, won a bunch of shit, this and that. And when she trains her riders now, and I go and I listen in, I'll be in the barn and she'll be doing her thing. She will often say, she's very direct, as you know. She'll say, "Get your head out of your ass. You made one mistake. Don't make a second." Right? They had the wrong steps coming into the jump or whatever it is, and then they allow that past mistake to hijack the next choice. And so I think we all make mistakes. It's like the Seinfeld method, if you're familiar with that, right? We've talked about that. Like Jerry Seinfeld asked some old guy, some old comedian, how do you write so many good jokes? He says, "I write a lot of bad jokes." And long story short, he put a calendar on his wall, and every day that he wrote a joke, he'd like put an X on there, I think a red X, that he wrote at least one joke, and every day he didn't have anything there. And the guy, Jerry's whole thing was, I just try to keep the chain going. And if I break the chain, I just get back on the horse the next day. I don't have 2 days in a row where I don't write a joke.
Yeah.
Right? It's the reps.
And, I'm explaining the same thing to my 9-year-old son, Ethan, because he watches YouTube. He watches guys like,
does he watch me in bed in his tent?
That's just me.
Oh, that's just you. Okay.
But he watches, I can't remember, Mr. Beast is one of the guys he watches. And Mr. Beast does all this cool, generous stuff with, truckloads of cash.
Right.
So cool for a 9-year-old to see.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing, okay, well, that's all market. I understand how it works, right? I understand where that money comes from. And he sees all the success and all the wins. And I have to explain to him, you just see the tip of the iceberg. You don't see everything below. You don't see all the blood, the sweat, the tears, the late nights, the hard work. You see the 10 seconds of success for the hours upon hours of hard work.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think some people, even when they come into our programs like Battleground and they see guys who are winning at a consistent level, they see like, oh, that must have been easy. No, it's consistent effort over time.
Yeah.
I share this all the time on our calls too. And you might not hear it, but you shared something with me that just landed so well. And it was December 2021. We were in Nash Vegas.
Okay.
I don't even remember what the talk was on, but you were speaking. And the thing that I took away from that event the most was its trajectory, not position.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's showing up daily, doing the hard things that you don't always want to do, like tracking your numbers, like following up with your leads, just doing all the stuff that's not sexy. It's not fun. But doing that over time, that's what's going to get you success.
Yeah. That's a great reminder of trajectory and not position, because we look at where we are in life today and it's like a Polaroid snapshot, right?
Yeah.
But when you zoom out and get the full field of view and you look at the trajectory that you're on in your life, there's a book, it's on the shelf over there. I think it's called 10X is Easier Than 2X. It's not Grant Cardone 10X. It's a different 10X, right?
Sure.
And Benjamin Hardy, I think, is the author. So anyway, I read the book and he talked about we have already made 10x leaps in our life. We just don't often know that because we don't spend enough time looking back.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I look back to where I was a decade ago, and it's the old saying, people underestimate what they can accomplish or overestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year and underestimate what you can do in a decade.
Yeah.
And the most successful people, the big billionaires of the world, this and that, they think in decades, not years.
Yep.
And so I'm glad you brought that up, because for those listening to this, it's the compound effect. Just get 1% better. Like if you're not doing role plays now, start doing role plays.
Yep.
Right? If you're not doing any, do one a week. That's getting better. Do that for a month and then do 2. If you're not job costing, start job costing. That's a tiny percent better. You don't have to hit a home run every time you make some change in your business.
And doing that little by little is actually more sustainable than going crazy all in.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're going to end up getting burnt out.
Not many people can sprint a marathon.
Exactly. Right? So we take change little over time. It's like losing weight, man.
Yeah.
You ever try to lose a few pounds?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't gain it overnight.
No.
So you lose it over time.
It's funny with this too, just having the perseverance and the commitment to something and the Jerry Seinfeld stuff. I'm on day 24 right now of phase 1 of Live Hard. Okay.
Oh, right on. So you got 6 more days for phase 1.
Yeah. And I do the Live Hard, which is 75 hard, and then, phase 1, 2, and 3 throughout the whole year. So I think it ends up being right around 46% of my year, every year for the last several years, I'm on Live Hard, right?
Yeah.
And every single time somewhere in the program, no matter what phase I'm in fact, just on the 21st day, which was 3 days ago, I said to Lee, I just wasn't myself mentally. I was a little bitch, right? We were traveling back from College Station, Texas, where one of our daughters is. And I was just, I think it was one of my, I'm carb cycling, and it was one of my really low carb days.
Yeah.
And I was just, I don't like to travel because I love to travel in the destinations. I'm a bitch all the way up until I get past security, and then I get to the gate. And because I don't
now you can breathe.
I fucking hate people because they don't have situational awareness,
Yes.
like all this shit. So
we should probably not travel together.
probably not. And the whole time she's like, "Will you quit being a bitch and calm down? Like we do this all the time. It's fine." And I'm like, I know. So anyway, that night we finally get back here into town, and I couldn't sleep because I'm thinking about why am I being such a fucking bitch, right? I don't have a hard life, like first world problems, right?
Yeah.
And so the next morning, I was thinking about it throughout the night. I get up the next morning, I said to her, I said, you know what it is? I said, it's day 21, which isn't that many days. I mean, I've done 75. I've done this every year. But looking back, every time I'm on one of these phases, I hit a point where I have a day or two where the monotony of showing up just takes its toll on me. And that's why I think Live Hard is such a great program, because it's not a fitness plan or a challenge. It is mental toughness of what are you doing tomorrow, Tom? Oh, I'm going to literally, the alarm goes off. I get out of bed, okay, and I walk into the bathroom and I turn the cold shower on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even pee first because I pee in the fucking shower because I know if I don't take this stupid ass cold shower first,
you're not going to do it.
And dude, we've had negative 30 wind chills and shit here in Colorado lately. It's been the coldest winter in a long time. Pipes are cold as shit. And I'm in there and, I'm just shivering my dick off, right? And I can't afford that, by the way. And so that's what I'm doing. And then after that, I'm going to go chug my first 20-ounce bottle of water. And then I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do my 10 pages of reading. And then I'm going to go get my first workout in. And then I'm going to fit work in. It's just the monotony of this shit.
Yeah.
And I know that's what a lot of people feel when they're trying to fix their business is we think it's about the sexy big leaps, and it's the daily grind of the trajectory is my point.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
How many people have you seen, we talk about it, Shinfu sales training and all the role plays, I'm not getting any better. I'm not getting any better. And then all of a sudden you're on a call with a client and something comes out of your fucking mouth that you didn't realize that you had picked up, and you close a deal that changes the game.
Because you asked the right question, or you knew when to shut up, or
Right.
you said the right thing, you know?
You practice. You kept showing up.
And it's the same thing like when we were in the military. I'm sure we both have done reflexive fire drills where it's just drilled into your brain. You know what to do, and the target comes up.
Yep.
It happens instinctively, and that's why we preach role playing.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell everybody a role play a day keeps the bill collector away.
Love it. I love that.
That's my saying,
That's
right?
good.
Do it every day.
That's good. It's it's a perishable skill. Sales is a perishable skill, like firing a weapon, hitting a golf ball, jacking off, whatever it is. So I don't know. Look on your face. Unless you're using the stranger. So, all right. So what I want to do, I want to have some fun. I want to go to our group New Year coming out here, and I picked a couple questions.
This is scary.
All right. I picked a couple questions. All right. Lisa asks, how to handle price objections and not let the no's get you down.
I get more no's than I get yeses. I do. And it's just, you tell, what story are you telling yourself? Every no that I go through gets me closer to a yes. It's averages. It's numbers.
Yeah.
Let me get through the no's. I will get the yes.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be confident in my ability. I know that I'm selling at the right rates. I know I'm asking the right questions. I'm role playing. I'm doing everything that I need to do. Sometimes we're just not the best fit.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. And I'm going to answer each one of these as they come in too. So for me, I think there's two factors. One, it's easy to let it fuck with you, because you know the value you bring and you know what they're missing out on, and that's depressing.
It is.
Like when people tell us no, they don't want to jump into Battleground or come to Mile High or whatever it is, like, okay, totally cool, no pressure, but it's disappointing because I know what we have here.
Gosh, yes.
The other thing with this is how to not get let down with all the no's you get in the sales process is get a shit ton of leads, right? The more leads I have, the less I give a shit about the no's, because I'm not so desperate with the few leads that I have. So that's what first came to my mind. Okay, this is David. How to not let people go after getting to the price point. Really how to get people hooked on my every word.
Okay. So this is, and it might sound the way he asked the question is, how do I get people just like drooling over me,
to do
falling in
business
love
with me?
That's not about it.
Right.
We got to have a mindset shift here, right?
Yeah.
So, because it's all needs to be about our client. It's not about us. It's not getting them to drool and say, "Oh, Anthony's the greatest contractor in the world." It's Anthony really understands me.
Yeah.
Anthony understands what's going on in my life. He understands what kind of pain we're going through and what kind of solutions might help us. He really cares, right? And so, how to get them drooling and grabbing onto every word is to say less.
Yeah.
Listen more.
Yep.
Ask really good open-ended questions and legitimately care for your clients.
Yeah.
And they will know it.
Yep. Yeah, my take on this is before you're having a sales conversation with them, not surprising, I'm going back to marketing. Marketing is everything that happens before that sales call and then everything that happens after the sales call and the experience, right? So it's like how to not let people go after getting to the price point. Like he spits out a price, brackets it. I don't know what he's doing here, but
now we're going to talk to a couple more contractors.
Yeah, but you can set yourself up for more success by creating good content, things we talked about earlier, I think.
Yep.
And just where people pretty much already know what it's going to cost before they ever call your company.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of those ways. And I don't know how many role plays David's done.
I think David's fairly new to the group.
Yeah. So that'll
he's
come
in
in
for
time.
a treat. This is going to be cool for him.
And like I said, people aren't necessarily going to be hooked on your every word like you're some old man storyteller in the village, and you're the only entertainment.
I don't want them to be.
Right. Yeah. All right. good old Mark says, I'd like to hear you guys talk about working side by side with your wife or spouse and separating business and marriage relationship stuff. And then someone else had a similar one about, how do I work with my spouse who works for me? They're in the business. They do my admin work, but they're only a 50% owner of the business because of the entity, but not with decision making. So, and I know, Lindsay has another career and she's gonna be going back to school for her master's and some other things. So she's not necessarily, but you guys are very tight. I know.
Oh
so,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. She's my rock. She's my better half. I definitely married up, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I know she's going to listen to this,
right.
so I need to make sure I need to get that out there.
Of course, you outkicked your coverage.
Right.
There you go. So
all day long. But so she just never really had a desire to really be involved in the business full time. She's always offered to be helpful. Like if I'm stressed out or something, or she's like, what can I do to help you? She's always been that way. But it's oftentimes me just saying, well, there's nothing really that you can do. It's something that I have to take care of.
Right.
Or I'm going to have to sit down and I'm going to have to train you and all this stuff. So she's always been supportive, but she's never been involved with major or minor business decisions except for when I hired Colleen.
Yeah.
That was like one moment in time I remember coming to her and said, what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
And aside from when I joined the Contractor Fight.
Yeah.
Because that was a huge decision for me at the time.
Okay, and what did she fight you on it?
No, she supported me. She trusted me.
Yeah,
I didn't really have the money to do it
at
the time, and it paid off. But so, how do we mix business and work? I try not to talk about work a whole lot.
Yeah,
at home, of course I do. I get stressed out just like everybody else does with work, and it reflects in our relationship. Mm-hmm. But we work on it. It's a work in progress. I'll tell you one thing. Is we're all human, but because of things like Shin Fu, I have learned how to communicate with my wife better. I've learned how to listen better. So those discussions are a lot more productive and there's a higher level of understanding. So she supports me in anything that I do, but she isn't in there running HubSpot and QuickBooks for me and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'll speak a little more to answer the question about working with a spouse in the business and stuff. I've coached a lot of people and I've done it and this and that. But for you in your case, I know I'm going to bring this up because I know there's a lot of guys. I've done videos on this on YouTube before where contractors will tell us that I've been in business for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. My wife used to support me in it. Now she doesn't. Right. And I want to shine a light and give you props here that I think the thing that you do well, which is why she's on board with decisions that you make, is she doesn't think you're full of shit because you do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
Right? I think one of the biggest things that hijacks, and I'll just speak male, female, like the husband runs the contracting business because it's usually a husband who's the knucklehead, and the wife is trying to be supportive, but year in and year out, he's saying this year's going to be different. Nothing changes. We're going to make more money. Nothing changes
Empty
except
promises.
our debt level, right? And he's homeless and this and that. And so if you want more support at home, don't be full of shit is really the point, right? And for those that are working with a spouse where the spouse has a role in the business, it's tough, but you got to separate. This has to be part of counting the cost. Like, hey, are you sure we want to do this? Because this is a role in the business that is going to have, performance KPIs. There's going to, obviously you're always going to get special treatment because it's a spouse.
Sure.
We all know that. Or a kid or whatever it is,
should.
Right? As you should. But you got to I've just seen problems where the husband, I've coached so many couples where the husband dismisses the wife's ideas because she didn't work in the trade. So what value can she bring?
Yeah.
Which is
not
bullshit.
Cool.
I've seen where husbands automatically think that if my wife's going to work in the business, it needs to be all that administrative shit, which isn't always the case. Sometimes your wife is a better salesperson than you. Okay.
We know a few people like that.
We do. And so, I think it's a matter of a real conversation. Like, if we're going to do this, I don't want to just hire you and have you work in the company just to, get a tax break or whatever with the entity of the business, or give you a paycheck. And that's the other last thing here is pay your spouse. Whatever they would be making doing this job for somebody else is what you should be paying them. Because let's play the long game here. You die or you guys get divorced. Now she doesn't have a work history with payment, where she earned income and this and that. But even though she worked for all this time,
yeah, you got to do it legit.
Yeah, and I see a lot, and then it also fucks with the psyche when somebody shows up and works and doesn't get paid. And if your spouse is telling you, "Oh, honey, you don't have to pay me," I think you need to go, "No, bullshit, I'm paying you."
Yeah.
Right? And you do what you want with the money. It's your money, you earned it. Right? And so, and keep checking in with each other on that stuff, or else it's going to be problems, man. So.
Yeah, and that's the communication part, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's the essence of any good marriage is communication, but especially when you're working together.
What'd you say? No, I'm just kidding.
See what you did there.
Steve wants to know. He says, I'd like for you guys to talk about the subcontractor model and relationships, how to obtain, retain, manage, and develop relationships with subs.
Man, we can go on for another
That's
hour.
another hour on that one.
And I'll tell you what, and because he may not know this, if you are listening to this and you happen to be one of our Battleground members,
which he is,
so
you could go into the replays if you did a whole couple trainings on this, didn't you?
The last one I think was May of 2023 in the Mindset Archives. Neil's done a couple calls, so they're in there. But I mean, it's the same way you would try to find an hourly employee. Right? Where are you going to look? Maybe they're working somewhere else, right? Maybe you take them from there. But you're always hiring. You're always building relationships. You're going to the supply houses. When you are looking for influencers from a marketing perspective to sell projects, you also look for influencers to bring you quality people. Right? So if I'm looking for quality painters, I know the guy that works at Sherwin-Williams, right? And I talk to him and say, "Hey, who's coming in here? Who's doing a lot of painting? Who's everyone recommended?
Who's bitching about their boss?
Yeah, right. Or who's not doing so hot?
Yeah,
and stuff like that. And if I'm looking for a new electrician, I might go over to the electrical supply place.
Yeah,
and say, who's in here just killing it?
Yeah,
right. Who do you like dealing with the most? Who is easy to deal with?
Who pays their bills on time?
Exactly. Right.
Who doesn't run a chaotic business as far as you can tell?
Yeah. Who drives who drives a clean truck and shows up professional looking?
Yeah.
Nurturing them is, just take care of them. Be good.
Yeah.
Treat them like you'd want to be treated. Pay them on time. Make sure that they're set up for success. Communicate well with them.
Don't nickel and dime their numbers.
No, their number is their number.
Right. Yeah.
If I don't like it, then I can go find somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't want people nickel and diming me. I know what I'm worth. And if they're doing great work, they show up on time, they clean up after themselves, send me the invoice.
Yeah. I think finding, whether it's employees or subs, also he talked about how do you obtain them. I think you got to be attractive, right? We talk so much about building your brand. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time I said the phrase build your brand, right?
It's true.
But it's easier. Like, number one, you got to build your brand. Number two, you got to hunt daily.
Yeah.
Hunt. Like, you see a truck driving down the road and it's a carpenter, call him and go, "Hey, I just saw you driving on the road. I'm a GC. I got a team, but it's always good to know other people." Do you ever subcontract, for anybody else? If you do, I'd love to talk to you. Yeah. Like, it's just developing the habit of having these conversations. It's prospecting for your workforce as much as it is for new business.
And what I found on my end is I have built my brand on online. Subs reach out to me.
Yeah.
Like, "Hey, who's doing your plumbing? Who's doing your electrical? Who's doing your sheetrock and all this stuff?" And it's like, well, I got a guy.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take your information down. Yep. So when that falls through, or maybe something happens and I need someone else, I'll call you.
Yeah. And I think also having we're always looking for great subcontractors page on your website, a recruiting page, posts where you're showing your culture.
Yeah.
You bring in lunch to your subs. Maybe you got all your subs in for the monthly subcontractor meeting and you're live streaming the thing and and then tagging it. Here's something tactical for you guys is where you tag.
Shout them out.
You just go, hey, we're having our monthly sub meeting. We're always looking for great people to be on our team here. Tag the best tradespeople that you know.
Yeah.
And now you get everybody on Facebook that you know follows you, tagging people you might not know. Now they know who you are.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just being on the hunt, man.
It is. Go into your local community groups on Facebook, right? Hey, I need to know who the best HVAC guy is in Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're going to have all these homeowners say, well, I use Joe Smith Mechanical.
Yeah.
Oh, they're great. Smith is awesome. I'm going to call Joe Smith.
Hey, man. And now you have something to say too. Hey, I asked for the best HVAC guys. Your name came up. I thought it might make sense to have a conversation.
Yeah. What's up?
There you go. Done. Don't overcomplicate this shit.
Yeah,
all right.
Don't overthink.
I got a couple more here, and then I think one more, and then I'm gonna move on to our. I got two other things here. Uh-oh. Michelangelo. Basically, how to find the ponds with the right kinds of fish I'm looking for. He elaborated and said, since implementing what I've been learning in Battleground, I've more than doubled my prices, but I'm still reaching the clientele that expects those old prices. I'm having trouble reaching the people that can actually afford me.
That's a very common thing when people come in and they have to make that initial jump in their prices in order to obtain a profit.
Yeah.
We have to attract a different level of client. We're not attracting the people that are looking for the best deal anymore. We're not attracting the people that are looking for the discounts or the stuff out of the bargain bin or the lowest end of materials. We're looking for clients that want the best. So part of it is in our branding, right? We go back to our branding. How are we establishing ourselves within the marketplace in our communities? For one. And two, think about it. Where are those people going to live? What neighborhoods do they live in? What do they do for a living? And this is where tracking comes back into point.
Right.
I know that my ideal client works either in the IT or the financial sector. They have medium to large size dogs. They live in a house that is $800,000 or more in my area. They either have no kids at home or they're empty nesters, right? But they drive nice vehicles, but they don't drive Ferraris. Yeah. So that's an avatar of my ideal client. I just track over time. I've tracked that. So now I know who I need to go for. Yeah. Who else are they doing business with? Right. I get in front of the influencers. It's all marketing.
It is.
It's getting in different circles. Don't worry about the people hanging out at the Dollar Tree. Those aren't your folks anymore.
Right.
Step it up.
Yeah, there's too much unknown context here about his business to give any here do exactly this. But I think on the macro scale, it comes down to, you've heard before, we've talked before, I think it was Logan in the past who said, these people are buying Mercedes and BMWs, right?
Yep.
And Porsches and shit like that. Your website should look like that.
Everything.
Right? If you're talking about we do kitchens and you want people that have money, you can't take them to the ghetto website, right? The budget where it looks budget, meaning it was done on the cheap, meaning, how do you answer your phones? All these things send a message to that sort of a buyer. Like if you reach out and go to a Mercedes or BMW dealership right now, they're rolling the red for you.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's they call you back when you have a service call. Like it's all these different things we talk about. It's your appearance. I can't tell you how many people I've seen that are contractors that claim to be like high-end contractors, and they show up to appointments with non-company gear, or it's wrinkled or dirty. They got bedhead. You could tell they just roll they
don't take care of themselves.
Again, this is about looking the part.
Yep.
So, and it's going to take some time. Once here's the other thing. He's probably doing the same level high quality work that he was doing for the cheap prices. Now it's just he's going to get it in front of people that respect it. Yep. And to me, my ideal client, aside from some of the things you mentioned, are do they need or want what I have? Are they do they respect what I do? Are they willing to find the money? I didn't say have the money. Your ideal clients will find the money. Yep. Dude, you found the money for our programs years ago.
I certainly
did.
Right?
You saw the value, you found the money. And the fourth thing is they're a joy to work with.
Yep.
And so if you want to attract those types of people, you got to be the part. And then I would also tell him it's time to start creating content that shows your character. Like, go live on a job site if one of your values is, like one of ours in the fight is earn confidence, right? If I had a construction company and earn confidence was one of our values, I would go live and I would go, hey, listen, one of our values in ABC Construction is earn confidence. We got to show up every day and pay the rent, right? What we did yesterday doesn't matter. What we say we're going to do tomorrow doesn't matter. We need to earn the confidence of our employees, our team, our subs, our customers, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Flip the camera on and go, look at how immaculate this job site is right here. I'm so proud of my team because I walked in and it looks like the real deal company is here. I can't wait to buy these guys some lunch and give them some high fives. I'm out.
Yeah.
That is a branding message on your character and who you are as people, not just buy our shit.
No, and it's the truth. So it all does tie in together. Numbers affect marketing and affect sales. But to answer his question in one sentence, since he's in Battleground,
Yeah.
do the marketing boot camp.
There you go.
Right?
Yep.
That's
Start
where
with
I
that.
learned it.
Start with
So
that.
start there. Low hanging fruit. A lot of it is free. Doesn't
Mhm.
cost a dime, but you start establishing yourself.
Yes. You've used the phrase a few times a day, time kills deals.
Yeah.
It's just part of our language.
Yep.
We were driving over here today. You told me, you said, dude, time kills deals. I had to get back to this guy and this whole thing. So I wanted you to tell the story. I think, did you sell it this morning?
He paid the invoice
paid
this
the
morning.
invoice
He
this
signed
morning.
yesterday.
So give this story because you play the sales game with urgency.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I see this is, again, back to, it's about the experience. Are you easy to work with? Not having friendly fire, all the things that we've touched on. I want to give like a real life recent example of how this time kills deals concept played out in your favor from start to finish with a new project.
So, and it all started with my brand.
Okay.
Because he Googled bathroom contractor near me or something like that.
Mhm.
And I came up. I was right up there towards the top.
Yep.
Look at my website. Look at my brand. Put a lot of work and a lot of money and a lot of time into that.
Right.
So he sent us an email. He didn't fill out our web form, but he sent an email to the admin email address, which is actually Colleen's.
Right.
And he called the phone number on my website, which is my cell phone number.
Okay.
He left me a voicemail. I called him. We called him back. We got him on the phone quickly. And
How quick, like from the time he left messages and filled shit out to
Couple
contact?
hours.
Couple hours. Okay, good.
yeah, a couple
Yep.
hours.
Yep.
I mean, he heard from Colleen immediately. And I said, because I texted Colleen, I said, hey, get this guy scheduled for this time because this is when I have an opening. Just override my availability.
Yeah.
And she did. It's like,
Yeah.
that's why we have a Colleen.
There you go.
That's my ninja. And set it up. And I really, if I would have stuck to my normal routine and stuff, I wouldn't have had the time to go out there and look at that project until next week
Yeah.
because I was coming here.
Right.
But I looked at Wednesday morning and I'm like, I got the time. I got a million things I got to do Wednesday,
Yeah.
but I have the time to go do a consult.
Yeah.
So I got him on a consult.
Yep.
And I went out there, and before they even knew exactly what they would have to invest to get their master bathroom done, they said, we're just going to go with you. We're going to sign it. Just send it over.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent it over within 2 hours, and they signed it. And then they paid me about a $20,000 deposit this morning.
Unless I'm confusing it with another story, didn't he share with you that you were the only one that got back to him?
I was the first one.
The first one.
So I don't
Okay.
know if anyone
Okay.
did after
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
but I was the first one.
Do you like being first or last with bids and customers? Do you care?
You know what? I've lost some where I've been the first. I've lost some where I've been the last.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter because I'm going to do everything the best that I can.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. I don't let it really bug me out much.
Yeah. See, and I wanted to share that because there's so much revenue lost by contractors because they wait.
Yeah.
Like there's no better time than 5 minutes ago to reach back out to the lead, right?
Call 'em
and
up.
you know, he emailed into admin and she replied right away. That sends a message that you guys have your shit together and you're not budget remodelers.
Yeah.
Right.
And so in part, we do use some automation in our business
Mhm.
to where when they fill out our web form, they can schedule their own phone consultation. Some people don't even do that.
Yeah.
So one of Colleen's main roles is as soon as a lead comes in that did not schedule the call or send us pictures, she's on the phone with them. Like as soon as they come in.
What's that sound like?
Hey, this is Colleen with Greystone Remodeling. I saw you reached out to us. I'd love to set up a time to hear about your project. When would be a good time for Anthony to call you?
Yeah. Boom.
Right?
Yeah.
So she's setting up the play for
Yeah.
me. And it works great. She does a great job at it. We get leads that come in overnight. Believe it or not, I do sleep.
Yeah.
So I'm not answering the phone at night, right? I'm not answering emails every night. So first thing in the morning after she drops her girls off at school and she gets back in her command center, she's going through all the leads that came in overnight and she's following up with them.
Yeah.
While I'm out on the projects and managing stuff right there, she's setting me up for the rest of the day.
How many hours you work a week?
We talked about this earlier. That's kind of a loaded question. Probably around 25, 30 hours because I mean, I see my kids off for school in the morning, every morning. My wife takes them to school. But I pick my kids up every day.
What time is that?
So I'm usually leaving the house around 3:15. So I run personal errands during the day. If I got appointments and stuff I need to take care of, I do it. If I want to, me and Lindsay want to go out to lunch and have a lunch date, we do that. I mean, I know it wasn't too exciting, but we went to Sam's Club on Monday and did some grocery shopping,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I'm adulting.
Get the free samples and all that.
Oh yeah.
All right.
But so it's probably 25 hours.
Yeah.
I work more than that, but I work on being a dad. I work on being a husband. I work on my ministry. I work here in Battleground, right? I put in probably 5 to 10 hours a week, at least in Battleground. Maybe not all on coaching calls, but being interactive in the group and coaching people through there and DMs and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I work a shit ton, but for Greystone, my contracting company, probably about 25 hours a week.
And what, talk about your ministry.
So
iron sharpens iron.
It's iron sharpens.
Iron sharpens. Yes.
So, and this is the cool part is in 2018, right after I quit drinking, I felt called by God to go into pastoral ministry. I ended up getting into college, going to college full time, right, at night online, and earning a degree in biblical and theological studies.
Okay.
While running a business, father and everything.
Right.
I made a 4.0.
Yeah.
Right. It can't happen. Don't tell me you don't have time.
You did this the first year that you were in the group too.
Yeah,
So
I was
that
still
year
in
you went
college.
from like not making money to 2.7.
I was still a full-time
You were
student.
going to school, your dad, your husband, your all this stuff, and running the business.
Pretty cool, right?
That's cool, man.
So I got ordained as a minister in 2022, October of 2022, and I wasn't being called to a church. I had an opportunity that I turned down. I was not the right fit for them. They probably would have chased me out with a pitchfork.
Yeah.
Right. And so I had it on my mind of where can I make the most impact? And I wasn't a coach here yet, but I was coaching people in the group. And I was like, I have some value. I can help people. So why not mix my ministry with coaching? So I said, why not minister to Christian entrepreneurs?
There you go.
Let me get a little bit more specific and let me do Christian men who are entrepreneurs because men often get shit on.
Yeah.
And they need a place. So that's what Iron Sharpens is. It's not just business coaching, but it's my ministry as well.
Sure.
So I take on one-on-one clients and group stuff. And
so how do I ask this question? Wave a magic wand.
Where did I hear this?
You wave a magic wand, you go to bed tonight, you wake up tomorrow, and one issue in manhood, masculinity, men is fixed. What is it?
That's a hard question. It really is, because there's so many. I think I want to say men's mental health. It's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
It's okay to be vulnerable. You don't have, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength.
Right.
I think that is probably one of the biggest things, because men's mental health is often overlooked by society. Society shits on men.
Yeah, I would agree.
Right.
Yeah.
I love women. Women are great, but so are men.
Yeah.
And society spends their time focusing on the needs of women and children. I'm not saying that they're not important, but we overlook the dad, the husband that comes home tired, that doesn't share what he's feeling because he feels like he'll be less of a man, less of a husband, or less of a father.
Or he'll stress out his spouse or put a burden on them.
That's was me.
That is me from time to time, where I pack mule everything. Yeah. Right. And listen, women get a bad rap too, because like they look at magazine covers and Instagram and all this bullshit. If you're not this skinny, if you don't have lips like this, and all the bullshit in our world today, like what they call a strong, pretty woman, and all that shit is bullshit, right?
Exactly.
And I think in the same way, men get ripped on with the whole masculinity stuff, the toxic masculinity. Like, one of the things I love about the Queen is she's like, I want my man to be a man. Yeah. Like, and men are good. Yeah. Men in general are good. We're just a little inept from time to time at communicating what's going on because of different upbringings and backgrounds and all, which I get. And this is not like, let's go be a bunch of snowflakes and hold each other. No. Okay.
We're fundamentally different than women. Right. We're created for different purposes, right?
I mean, the amount, you bring up the mental health, because the amount of pressure a man feels, and I don't care where he is on the financial ladder.
Doesn't matter.
He's feeling the pressure to provide. He's feeling the pressure to not underachieve, to pull his weight, to carry his water, to not burden the people that he loves with financial issues. There's enough problems in fucking life. And, I don't want money to be an issue for the other people under my roof, right? Like It's just, that's one of the things that drives me. But yeah, I was just curious what you would wave a magic wand over. So,
I think it would be that, because if we could get a handle on that, then we can make a lot of progress. Yeah.
And I think part of that mental health, is, listen, I've seen counselors and therapy and all this shit too.
I've had a lot of counselors.
Yeah. I think, and again, I'm not talking like outlier situations here, but I think one of the fundamental issues with men's mental health is we as individuals don't look in the fucking mirror and own our crap. Yeah. Like all progress begins with truth. Sometimes the truth is going to piss you off, upset you, disappoint you, but there's so much confidence, self-confidence comes when you acknowledge your shit and then you actually do something about it, which we talked earlier about. Honor the commitments that you make to yourself.
Take ownership.
Like, do hard things, because every time you do these things, it lifts you and lifts you and lifts you to the point where even if one of my really good friends is all these things that I just said, but he also struggles with depression, but his depression would be a lot worse if he wasn't the type of individual that we're talking about here.
Exactly. I struggle with depression and PTSD and anxiety, but I keep pounding the stone. I do the hard things. Yeah. It keeps me on track. Yep. I'm not, immune to it. I'm not Superman. We're all human. We all have this stuff, but yeah, it's crazy.
So word on the street, as we get out of here, is that you're a bad tipper.
That's so far from the truth. I actually tip really, really well, unless I get really bad service, and then I won't tip at all. Okay. But I know where you're going with this.
So, something about New York City.
Long story short, me and my son drove up to New York City on my birthday last year because I had to pick up a vanity from a warehouse in BFE, New Jersey. Right. So we made a trip out of it, and we spent the day in Manhattan. Got to do all the sightseeing and everything, and we go into Times Square, and And we're tired. This is like the end of the day. We're hungry. We're tired.
Yeah.
It's hot. And we go in there, and there's a Mickey Mouse, like a sports team mascot, got the Mickey suit on, the big old head and everything. Comes up, and Ethan wants to take a picture of him. I'm like, okay, yeah, I see what's going on here. He's going to take a picture, and he's going to want a few bucks. I'm like, I'll give him $20, right?
Okay.
Be a good experience.
Take a picture with my kid. Here's a $20 bill.
And then, but as he's posing for the picture, and I'm taking the picture, Minnie Mouse and Goofy and Donald Duck and all of them show up. There's like a clan of them.
Oh, they were working you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they worked the wrong guy.
Yeah.
So I hand this guy a 20, and the dude has the balls to take his helmet, head off, whatever you want to call it, his Mickey head. And he holds up the 20 and he goes, "That's it?" And I went off on him. I said, "Dude, you need to get some fucking skills. You can eat a bag of dicks." I said, "Go do something." And my son's there with me. Okay, probably could have handled a little bit better, but I was pissed. Like, you ain't gonna do that to me,
Get
right?
some skills.
Yeah.
Freaking.
You're lucky I gave you $20 and I didn't punch you in the face. Here's that for a tip. Don't be an asshole.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. Well, dude, I'm excited to film again tomorrow. I know we're going to record this course that you guys on the podcast will hear about here in the next month or two.
It's going to be awesome.
And we're going to bring some good stuff for you, help you make some more money immediately. Anything that you want to share that we didn't touch on, or anything I should ask you that I didn't ask you that
Where do these questions come from, Tom?
Yeah.
I don't think so. It's I'm always learning.
Yeah.
I'm growing. I think I've grown more in the past year personally now that I'm on the other side of the screen and I'm coaching others.
Yeah.
I've realized that I am fulfilling my calling.
Yeah.
Not only with Iron Sharpens, but here in the fight.
Yeah.
I'm helping other people. That's what I was born to be, was a servant.
Mm-hmm.
Greystone remodeling may not always be there for me.
Right.
And I'll be honest, if I woke up tomorrow and I wove the magic wand, I would be coaching and ministering full time, and I wouldn't be remodeling.
Well, I think somebody asked you in our Facebook group, like, what your future looks like, and you mentioned that. You said, I want to get this thing humming along where I'm the founder and I've got a CEO running the company, or you sell it or whatever. And if I could coach here in the fight, and do my ministry with Iron Sharpens 100% of the time, right,
dude.
Well, I know a guy that might be able to make that happen.
I might know one too.
Yeah.
Were we off air yet?
No, but this is good stuff, man. Guys, share the show. Give us a rating, a review. Anthony, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you personally?
Hit me up on Facebook. Hit me up on Instagram at the Iron Sharpener. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Cool.
And I'm always here to help. And if you come into Battleground, generally I'll probably be the first coach that you meet. So come ready and come willing, and we'll have a lot of fun and have a story to tell at the end.
Good shit, man. We'll put all your info in the show notes. And with that, dude, this was awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, dude.
You got it. All right, fighters, we are wrapping up this episode with 3 questions for Tom. Anthony is going to ask me 3 things that I have no idea what's about to come out of his mouth. So let's see what happens here.
On the night of January 24th. No, I'm just playing. Where do babies come from? No.
Where do babies come from?
So on a serious note, I came up with 3 questions rather quickly, but they're probably not questions that you get all the time from members.
Yeah.
But I think everybody would benefit from hearing the answers to get to know more of you and understanding your purpose.
Okay.
So the first question is what's your big goal for 2024, both professionally and personally?
Gotcha. All right. So personally, it's to have more fun. I am so freaking intense, man, you know, and I love to compete. I love to win. I love the game. And oftentimes I don't, and this has been an issue for me for a while that I've known of, but I'm intentionally more than ever this year going, I got to enjoy the ride. and I don't want to say it's like I'm not enjoying the ride, but I think when we, you know, I don't have hobbies because like I don't have a Harley, I don't have a boat, I don't want one, I'm not a
Yeah.
stuff guy. Skiing's a pain in the ass because it's a couple hours, 2.5 hours away, you know. So now when I'm there and I'm skiing or something, it's great, or if I'm get out on the water or something. But I was thinking about this the other day, actually, was why don't I have any hobbies? Well, for 17 years, I was a high school football coach. That was my thing.
Yeah.
So that was all my time outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I resigned as a coach a few years ago, and I've just filled it with building the fight and writing another book, and you know, and Lee and I travel and this and that. So yeah, personally, it's have more fun. However I'm going to define that, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
And professionally, you know, this is the year in the fight where we're going to blow shit up. Like that's kind of the theme internally of the year. It may or may not be the theme of Mile High this year. You know, we've been working incredibly hard the last several years. Like, I think we've just gotten started. You know, the podcast does tens of thousands of downloads a week. We, you know, YouTube and all this other stuff. And I don't even feel like we've scratched the surface, especially the last 2 years when we morphed the CSA into the fight and made Neil the CEO, made a bunch of changes in the business.
There's been a lot of change.
There's been a lot of change to eliminate a lot of the chaos I created. And now we're at a point where we're ready to pour gas on it. So it's blow shit up.
If it's one thing I know, everyone on the fight team is ready.
Yeah.
We're ready to go.
Like it. It feels like we're more ready than ever.
Yeah. I think we got a super solid team.
Yeah, I'm pumped, and I just big vision wise vision beyond all this 2024 is, you know, one of the things I do every day when I like do visualization and I just, you know, for a few minutes or whatever, we are in the midst of building the world's most impactful and largest contractor business school. That's a phrase that's running through my mind, and because that's really what we're doing. There's not a business school for contractors, at least the entry level guys. I'm not talking about like continuing ed in certain industries and stuff, but like, and so a lot of what we're doing in the fight and the team is doing is creating what we're calling the fight way, and they're mapping out all the curriculum that's going to be coming and things like that to help people.
That's going to be cool.
Yeah,
that's going to be huge. I'm looking forward to that
when
one.
I just think about it and go, that'd be cool, and I have no idea how to get there because that's why we got the team, right?
That's why we have Who's Not How's, right?
That's right, man. So
that's awesome.
There you go.
Cool. All right. Question number 2. Tom, if you could meet anyone, either alive or passed on, in person and spend the day with them, who would it be and why? Anybody in history.
Wow. It's got to be one person, huh?
Can only be one.
Damn, man.
It's a tough question.
It is. I'm gonna have to go with Jesus. I'm just gonna have to do that one. Like, you know, I had some ancestors of mine that would be cool, but I couldn't pick one. You know, we got family from Ireland, and it'd be cool, like, to just, you know, I thought about my dad, who we weren't super close.
Yeah.
But I'd like to spend a day with my dad when he was a kid, to see what his context and worldview was, and maybe it would help me understand him better. But just the impact, you know, that Christ had in the world is pretty crazy. Like, no matter what you believe, the fact that all of his apostles ended up being martyred except one, I think, who was exiled. Wasn't John exiled? Was it John?
Yeah, well, John ended up dying.
But he wasn't, like, you know, burned or
Yeah.
whatever, like all the other ones. And so for them to live that life after him really said a lot. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions that he was just a sheep petting pacifist.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, like, what would the conversation be? You know, yeah, that's where it would be.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'd have to agree with you on
Yeah.
that one. So this kind of ties to the first two questions together. All right. So you spend so much time just giving yourself to other people, right? Pouring yourself in, your energy, your efforts, your wisdom into the people around you, not just the people in the Contractor Fight, but everywhere in your life. So as you empty your cup,
Yeah.
what fills yours, Tom?
One of the things that fills it, first and foremost, is the relationship I have with Lee. Like, we are so tight, and it's our, you know, we joke about the analogy that at the end of each day we walk in our bedroom, we close the door and lean our bloody swords up against the wall from the day, and it's just us. We can let our guard down, and so we have some sort of date time pretty much every day of the year. Like, we just get time, and we're in a position in life where empty nesters, our kids are, you know, so it's easier, right? I get that.
Yeah.
That's first and foremost. Second is when I hear how the fight and you guys as coaches and our community and other members have helped other people win. You know, I mean, you see it. We every now and then you'll see, you know, we'll copy and paste something into our Slack channel as a company where, you know, somebody's like, you know, the fight saved my marriage or whatever. You know, those are the things that, you know, jack me up. Like we've talked about in the podcast earlier and stuff, we all have these moments in our life, our business, our work, our career, whatever, where you're getting weary of the grind and again, I don't want to make some case like I work real hard. I don't, like, to me, hard work is like more hard labor shit, right?
Right.
But the mental work of creating content that's valuable over and over and over thousands of times wears on you. So when I get things like that, or man, you had a guest on the show, they said one thing and I called somebody and mended a relationship where we haven't spoken to each other for 5 years. You know, those are the things where I know it's beyond the business stuff, because the business stuff's just math, man. It's just math. It's money. You can make money doing a lot of different things. Doesn't have to be a business. And I've always wanted to have an impact. And so I'd say, you know, when I get the feedback like that, about us as a fight team, that zaps my energy up again, where I'm just like, all right, let's hit it again.
Yeah.
So it
makes it worth fighting for,
it's
right?
pretty sweet. Yeah.
That's awesome.
You got it.
Cool, man.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.